Hey y'all, welcome back. It's been a little while since I've done a fat loss update, so thought today was a good day to do it. I looked at the numbers. Hopefully I'll remember everything. So just before starting the video, I looked at things. So this is kind of the last day of week 13. So when I started, my average weight was like 208, maybe a little bit over that, so 208 and some change. For this week, my average weight was about 195.8. So just over 12 pounds, maybe 12 and a half pounds, maybe around in there of fat loss. I do think most of it, if not all of it, has been fat loss. My workouts in the gym have gone well. I've been able to either increase reps or add weight on a fairly consistent basis. So if I was losing muscle, I don't think strength would be improving. And that isn't just like adding new exercises in and getting used to them. It's keeping a lot of the same ones. So I do feel like things have gone well. Let's see. So it's been about 4 weeks now, where I've done kind of switched over to the Ultimate Diet 2.0, or my modified version of it, I guess I should say. So that's the diet plan from Lyle McDonald. He's got a book about it, so you can get that. There's different podcasts he's done talking about it as well. So if you want a lot more information, you can do that. Basically, it's a very low carb diet. So, and he mentioned some modifications you can make to kind of go very low calorie as well, for 4 to 5 days of the week. And then I say 4 to 5 because I do 5 days a week that are kind of very low carb, very low calorie. And then I have more on Saturday and Sunday. So, what I do is a little bit different from what he says in the book. And what I do with some of the workouts is different than what he says in the book. So I mentioned in some videos that'll come out later with the workouts that, I'm not trying to say like I am following the Ultimate Diet 2.0 because I've changed things, so I'm not technically doing it. So this way, if it weren't working, or didn't work, I couldn't say, oh, well, his diet plan doesn't work or whatever, because I'm not actually following it. So what I do is Monday through Friday, I eat very low calorie, very low carb, still make sure I get in, I don't know, 200 plus grams of protein per day, um, fat where I feel like it needs to be. And, there'll be some miscellaneous carbs in there, but that's pretty much it. I'm not sure exactly what the calorie count comes to. I haven't paid too much attention to that, to be quite honest. Again, I've done this for a while, so I kind of know about where I need to be to do things. I mean, this isn't my first time trying to cut. I've done this many, many times, so I kind of have some ideas, just based on previous experience. If this is your first time, you're going to need to track things a lot better. That way, and that way you can make modifications and changes as the diet progresses. Again, I've got some experience. I can kind of make those changes based on past experience. If you don't have that experience, you need those numbers. That's what you're going to have to use, that data, to make those decisions. So then on Saturday, I have a lot more food, a lot more carbs. So like I'll eat 600 to 700 grams of carbohydrates today. I'll keep protein up there, still pretty high, maybe not quite as high, but I say I'm going to get at least 150 grams in. I still may get 200 or more. I'll just kind of let fat go where it goes. I don't necessarily try to add fat to things, but I might have donuts or something today to help me reach that carb total. It's definitely going to have some fat in there too, but I'll make sure that I have kind of a mix. So I might have some of those kind of dirty carbs. I do feel like some of the more sugar like that kind of helps to replenish glycogen, because that's what I'm trying to do during those 5 days, is deplete muscle glycogen. That helps muscles use fat for energy and kind of help burn fat. So hopefully lose it as well. And then we want to replace that glycogen over the weekend so that our workouts can still be high quality. So again, I think combination kind of the dirty carb seems to help replenish glycogen pretty well. But then I want some things that are cleaner, quote unquote cleaner. So like rice works really well for me, and I like it. So I'll do that too. So kind of a combination there. Like tonight, I know we're planning on, me and my wife, my kids, we're going to go out. So I'll eat what I want to at the restaurant. I'm not sure exactly where we're going. And I'm not going to be concerned about it. And so then on Sunday, still eat more food than during Monday through Friday, but less than on Saturday. So tomorrow I'll have about 250 grams of carbs. And so, like with workouts, one video I shared kind of what I drink intra workout. So on Saturday and Sunday, I'll do that same thing where I have the carbohydrates and the essential amino acids from Granite supplements. So I'll mix that plus the creatine, and I'll drink that during the workouts. After Sunday, though, I'm trying to deplete muscle glycogen, which is just stored forms of carbohydrates. So I don't want those carbohydrates during the workout because I'm actually using some of the weight workouts to help deplete that glycogen too. So in that case, I'll just have creatine and I'll have the essential amino acids, but leave the carbohydrates out. So that's pretty much the plan right now, kind of what I've been following the past 4 weeks. I'm going to do that again this week. Then I'm probably going to take a diet break. I feel like I've been working out pretty hard, so I feel like I'm getting a little tired from that. Dieting fairly hard too, so I think a little break might be good. And this might time well too for having another one when we go to the beach later in the summer. So timing wise, it just looks like it might work out well from multiple standpoints. So win-win. As far as, okay, the very first week, to kind of give a big overall, like the highest weight I had was 210.6 maybe, I can't remember, 210 and change. And again, that was like the highest weight I'd had. That was after eating too many carbohydrates. That happens sometimes. But now, like the lowest weight I had was this morning, and it was 193. I have not lost 17 pounds. Like I said, that 210, there was a lot of water and different things like that. My average weight for that, after that first week of dieting, was like 207 and a half basically. So now my weight was what I say, 195.8. So, again, around like 12 pounds or so there. So, and I had a few days of maintenance about midway through too. So I had like 3 or 4 days where I ate at maintenance. Still ended up losing like half pound that week as well. So even eating a little bit more and then being able to diet a little bit harder kind of helped out, or diet the same really. So this week I actually went down close to 2 pounds versus last week. Most of the time it has been like that 1 pound, maybe a little bit less. I've got some ideas on why it might have been a little bit more this time. I didn't really change the diet from doing this for the past 4 weeks, so that part was still the same. I did add in one small little thing, and I'm curious to see if that makes a difference going forward. Basically, I just think there was some inflammation there, and I think some of the water weight kind of came off this week as well, because I feel like I have more definition. Again, I just don't feel like it was all body fat. I feel like it was water weight in there too. So this week, like just to give kind of a range for you, my high day, so Sunday's always going to be the day where I weigh the most after eating more on Saturday. So last week on Sunday, it was 199.2. And then, Saturday morning is normally my lowest day. Not always, but most of the time. And this morning it was 193. So, I mean, you can see that's, 6 pounds, a little bit over 6 pound difference during the week. But then when you average things out, that's where I get that, 195.8. So I like this kind of diet plan. I think it's probably more complicated and more complex than what the vast majority of people are going to need. And Lyle McDonald even says in his books, like, this is not one to do unless you're already fairly lean. So I think he said 15% or below, body fat percentage for men, 22% below for women, then it could be helpful for you. If you're above that, this is probably just trying to keep track of more things than what you really need to do. And so what I would recommend, and what he recommends too, is keep it as simple, as simple as possible, as long as you can. If things are working, don't change them up. This is a similar plan that's worked very well for me in the past, and I enjoy it. I don't mind having those very low calorie days, as long as I get some days where I actually get to be a little bit full. I would much rather diet kind of harder for a shorter amount of time in a sense, rather than not as hard for a longer amount. I just like to feel full occasionally, so I like to eat. This helps me to be able to eat sometimes, and I know I get to eat again. For someone who maybe has like a binging type history or something like that, this probably isn't going to be a good plan. So, there's all kinds of factors we got to keep in mind. And I mean, for some people, once they kind of get started on a diet and get that momentum going, to change it up and have kind of the refeeds that I do on the weekend, it may kind of turn off that diet switch and it's harder to get going. So it kind of stops that momentum, and then you got that inertia you can't get past. So kind of know your personality, know what works well for you. If you're lean, you want to give this a shot, you got some information on it, you know where to get more. So hope this was helpful for you guys, and let me know if you got questions, and I'll try to answer things as best I can, give you some practical advice. We've got to still kind of see what works for us. That's where the nuanced context comes in, because we might have different goals. A lot of times people will say they want to, let's just say, lose weight, but then when you start talking to them, they also want these other things that are actually more important to them than the weight loss. So, see about that and make sure, because like I said, I mentioned my workouts. I like having those refeeds, quote unquote refeeds, on the weekend, because that does let me still work out hard during the week. Now, the last workout of the week is starting to get pretty hard because that muscle glycogen's depleted. That makes a difference, there's no doubt. So I do think the lack of carbohydrates plays a part in those workouts being a little bit harder. I do think the biggest thing, though, is it's low calorie too. So I just don't have the same calories coming in. So I think if the calories were up there, even if the carbs were still on the low side, those workouts wouldn't be as hard. But when it's calories are low, carbs are low, it's going to be tougher by the end. That's just the way it is. I know that. I'm fine with that. Performance just in the gym, that's not the main thing right now. I'm using the gym to kind of help me meet this other goal. So keep that in mind when you're coming up with plans and different things for yourself. And I guess I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye.